We are joined today by Ashton Whitty, the writer, the activist, the MAGA superstar, I would say, rising star. She's here with us at bigleaguepolitics.com, joining us from Arizona. Ashton, thank you for joining the show.
Thank you for having me.
Ashton, we always like having you on to talk about the pressing social issues of our day. And it seems that thanks to the Gillette company, there is now a very, very big problem in this country. And it's not a problem that the Democrats have. It's called toxic masculinity. Tell us about it.
Well, as we all know, I've been sort of fighting this quote-unquote toxic masculinity for quite some time now. It's basically this idea that manly men are now a threat to society, a threat to the common good. And we are seeing products such as Gillette make commercials saying that the whole idea of boys will be boys is suddenly bad. And the reason why I'm trying to fight so hard against this is because, as we all know, during the election for the voting for Kavanaugh, I went to the protests. I held up the sign that said "Frat Lives Matter" because I think it's very important that society start appreciating our father figures, our brothers, our uncles, our male friends, because the truth is masculinity is a vital part in society. We are seeing people like PETA make these advertisements for men wanting them to go vegan because traditional masculinity, there's a tweet that they put out where the traditional masculinity is now a threat to society, and instead men should literally become soy boys if they want to be accepted in society. And the problem with this is that I think this is definitely a product that is caused by people tied to things like the Women's March, who, to modern day feminism, where suddenly the men in the world are no longer valued. And the problem with that is that I don't think a lot of people understand, especially those who want a quote unquote matriarch, don't realize in order to have a matriarchy, we need a patriarchy. And so the idea that masculinity is somehow toxic really sort of plays into the disappreciation of masculinity, father figures, and of course the patriarchy, which society needs to thrive. I always tell people that a country, a society, any sort of civilization needs to run like a nuclear family, a father figure and a mother figure. Yes, the mother figure has many responsibilities and many important roles, but so does the father figure. And I always tell people men and women have always had equal power, especially in the family structure. The difference is we have to recognize that women and men have different types of power. The moment women try to take over what is a male structure, everything collapses. And this is something we've seen for quite some time, especially in the nuclear family. And now they're trying to implement this in everyday society.
You know, Ashton, it's interesting because, for many years it was not considered a bad thing that women were not in the workforce and were in the home. Some women were in the workforce. There were a lot of great female journalists, for instance. There were certain jobs that women did and certain jobs that men did. It seems to me like the system that we have now, where they're telling women that it's more empowering to go and make more money than men in the workplace, first of all, emasculates men in the eyes of women, I would say, because they're making the same amount of money, so what's really the attraction on some level? And also, it just forces women to do something that's not necessarily natural to them. Now, I'm not saying I necessarily agree with this, but that's one argument. Is that something that you would agree with?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not telling women shouldn't work or women shouldn't vote. Of course, I do believe that women do have a very significant role in the family structure and in the home. And, I hate to say it, but women do belong in the kitchen to some degree. I mean, yes, women can have jobs, women can vote, yada, yada, yada. But there is a time and place where you have to realize, statistics even show women are happier in the home. Women are happier raising children. Women are happier doing this, this, and this. And the problem is the moment women, it's not so much that women work, the moment women make it about competition, it's almost as if women aren't going to work because they enjoy it. Women are going to work because they want to fight men. They want to beat men at something. And that's the issue here. It's no longer about, oh, I want to go be a doctor because I want to be a doctor. It's about, can I be the first female doctor to do this? The first female to do this, the first female version. Can I do this better than a man?
And you know what, Ashton? Against women being in the workforce, But you do see just kind of the destruction of men in order to build up women. And I mean, what is that going to do to our family unit and to civilization going forward?
Well, it's like I always tell people, you have to have a matriarchy and a patriarchy in order to work together. This is something that Western civilization has relied on for years and years and years. And this isn't so much of women are meant to be men's slaves in the kitchen, and that this needs to be a hands made tale sort of situation. I'm simply saying that men and women have always been equal. The issue is that women and men have different types of power. They have equal power, but we need to recognize that women and men have different types of power, and that's what makes us equal. A mother figure has very specific roles. A father figure has very specific roles. I mean, a father figure, especially when it comes to raising children, for example, it's not so much of, oh, your wife needs to be making you a sandwich while the father mows the lawn. It's more so of which a father figure teaches little Timmy how to be a man. A father figure teaches little Sally what kind of man she should marry in the future. The mother figure teaches little Timmy how to treat women. The mother figure teaches little Sally how to get a man's attention without being a total thought.
Well, now little Timmy has purple hair and little Sally is a stripper.
Exactly. That's what society is turning into. We have lost complete understanding of what it means to raise children, what it means to make a home, and most of all, make a society. If we don't treat society as if it were a home, the home becomes a mess. And as we're seeing right now, our government, our society, everything we understand in our culture is a complete mess.
Yes. Well, I think our economic system plays a lot into that as well, you know, forcing mothers to go out and have to, you know, provide a second income for families that really deserve the American dream, and they don't get it because so many of our jobs have been outsourced. I want to talk about a tweet that you sent, which was hilarious to me. You said, if Ben Shapiro is ever the president, I think we would be sold into Chinese slavery. Can you talk about that?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely think if someone like Ben Shapiro were to become president, we would lose a huge part of our own, republic, democracy, whatever, any sense of what America was founded on. I think the problem is a lot of what I see on the right wing is we see a lot of these conservatives, quote unquote conservatives, who are so pro capitalism, they forget the moral high ground. And people like Ben Shapiro, for example, I'm not sure if you saw the interview he had with Tucker Carlson, where Tucker Carlson completely destroyed him. And Ben Shapiro said to him, would you support, you know, would you support regulation on truck drivers, on truck driving companies, so they wouldn't allow machines to do the job for truck drivers? And Tucker Carlson looks at him and goes, duh, I would put regulations on truck driving companies to make sure other people get jobs. The amount of truck drivers that rely on those jobs in the society who have families to take care of. Yeah, you could put regulations on these jobs because you don't want robots taking over. I mean, Ben Shapiro is the kind of person where if he were president, he would sell out his entire country to China and Russia in the name of capitalism. That's just the truth. These people are so deranged by free markets, they forget what free markets is doing to this country. Big Pharma is poisoning us. The FDA isn't doing anything about what's going into our food. Technology is spying on us because of people in China. Not to mention, look what's happening with internet censorship. Laura Loomer, one of the greatest investigative journalists who works for a big league, and she's being censored everywhere. And she's one of the greatest investigative journalists right now. You're not going to see people on CNN or Fox News do what Laura Loomer does. And yet people like Ben Shapiro say, oh yeah, capitalism's fine. Free markets are great. Let's just keep censoring people. Let's let technology rule our lives. Let's continue to make cheap let's make cheap tanks. I mean, look at what our military is going through. Our military, they're barely even paying our soldiers, and the amount of cheap labor that goes into making our tanks. I mean, our tanks really aren't up to full form. The cheap materials that go into making our tanks. Everything is run by capitalism. Big Pharma is a mess. FDA is a mess.
Right, and
it's all run by capitalism.
Well, you know what they do is they regulate small businesses, so it becomes almost impossible to start something from scratch and hire people in the local community because they know that small business competes with the big corporations and with Jeff Bezos. How much money does Jeff Bezos have now? I have no idea, but it's a lot more than most of these people. So for Ben Shapiro, I think like he has been sort of established as this oligarch of people who have a very malevolent interest against the American people. And I think you see that at CPAC and with this kind of true conservative thing. It's really just professional conservative. It's standing up for Koch Industries and these companies that pay them. Do you see that in the conservative movement?
Oh, absolutely. I think, the conservative movement is changing more than ever. I think people are finally waking up to the issues of capitalism. Well, not the issues of capitalism. I'm obviously a capitalist myself. The issues of corporatism, because I think a lot of people for so many years never understood the difference between corporatism and capitalism. And the problem with corporatism is that when your society and your entire government is run by corporatism, it's no different than a tyrannical communism.
Right.
At the end of the day, a tyrannical government is no different than tyrannical corporations. Our government right now is in fact run by corporations. The amount of the things that these people get away with, the things that the Coca-Cola company gets away with, the things that the FDA gets away with, the things that even PETA gets away with. I personally, I'm all for animal rights. I'm involved in animal activism in all different types of forms. But what PETA is currently doing with the FDA is absolutely just corrupt in all forms.
Ashton, what is next for you? What is, you were talking earlier today on your Twitter about libertarianism, and that's very interesting to me because I think a lot of people would consider themselves libertarian to some degree, but the libertarian movement has basically just become Democrats, right? I mean, they're for open borders, obviously.
It's not just the fact that libertarianism is now open borders, which makes them Democrats, but they're like Ben Shapiro, where capitalism and corporatism, that line becomes fuzzy, and they're willing to basically turn the entire country into one big mall. I mean, my biggest issue with libertarianism is that they're willing to give up basic morals for the sake of capital. They're willing to open our borders to flood in cheap immigration. They're willing to poison our medications, poison our food, poison the air, just to make a good profit. And the problem with libertarianism is that a lot of the ideas in Christianity, basic morals, that gets tossed out the window. We have no understanding of family values when it comes to libertarianism. We have no understanding of community when it comes to libertarianism. Here's my issue with the Democrats, and I feel like this is where a lot of conservatives get it wrong. Conservatives always conservatives go after Democrats because they say, oh, you want people to pay taxes, you want people to pay for other people's health care, the homeless, and blah blah, as if it's a disgusting thing to help people who are in poverty. And that's where they get it wrong. What conservatism should be about is helping the poor, helping the sick on our own terms, because we don't need to be taxed. But at the same time, we are good enough to understand it's the right thing to do. And that's the problem, is that conservatism lately has lost their sense of morals. And that's where I think we really need to start going after, is we need to teach people what it means to be a Christian, what it means to be a moral conservative. And the problem is, yes, taxes are bad. But at the same time, we also need to be teaching our children what it means to help out a homeless shelter, what it means to give somebody who's poor on the street a plate of food. We need to start teaching our children what it means to be a moral conservative, because we don't need to be taxed. We just need to be good.
Well, I don't think Ben Shapiro and the Koch brothers are ladling any soup down at the soup kitchen. Ashton, I will give you the final word. What do you have to say to the great and very loyal and very enthusiastic viewers and readers of Big League Politics?
I just want to say that, do the best you can to be a better person. Love everyone around you. Be kind, be understanding, and keep fighting for the greater good. And God bless.
Ashton Whitty, one of the young rising stars in political writing and journalism, and we are lucky to have her on the show. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you for having me.